According to a study done by the World Food Program in 2009, almost a fourth of America is obese. This outrageous number is not the product of overeating or genetics, but of the profit-driven nature of the food industry. This industry has taken over most grocery stores and provides the majority of our and the world's food. It has become a business driven solely by profit, with little to no concern for the quality of the food it produces. If we do not take action and try to stop the continuation and escalation of these companies' influence on the food market, the world will deteriorate, with us along with it. The food produced by these food corporations are not ones of quality, and by helping to enact policies and make changes in our everyday lives, we can help increase the quality of our food. I will begin by speaking about why the food produced by these food corporations is unhealthy and the problems it presents. Then I'll cover the reasons why these unhealthy foods are being manufactured and not stopped. Finally, I'll discuss what we can do to prevent these parts of the food industry from continuing to produce these sorts of foods. First, let's talk about why these foods are unhealthy and what problems they present. Food manufacturers are much more concerned about their profits Food manufacturers are much more concerned about their profits than the quality of the food they produce. The unhealthy ingredients in their foods can be split more or less into two categories. Chemicals that are used to keep the food fresh so that they can remain on the shelves or in the warehouse for a little while longer before going bad. And lucrative tastes, the most known of which are sugar, salt, and fat. Both of these categories contain ingredients that increase profits greatly for producers. Everything is fine for the producer, but the consumer is let down substantially. The human body evolved to like tastes such as sugar, salt, and fat to store more fat, as in the past, food was much scarcer than it is today. But with these tastes being so plentiful now, we consumers are eating tons and tons of these fat-producing foods and suffering the consequences. The chemical preservatives are just as bad for us in general. Our bodies are simply not suited to process these sorts of things. These unhealthy foods have led to progressively unhealthier generations. And as a National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey done from 2011 to 2014 stated, since 1980, the rate of childhood obesity has tripled, and today over 38% of adults are obese. Heart disease, diabetes, learning problems, depression, and in some rare cases, even stroke are all possible effects of eating these unhealthy foods. We need to stop this. If we continue down this path, it will mean the gradual decay of the human race, and as you can imagine, that's not a good thing. Though there are many downsides to processed foods for the consumer, there are some benefits. For example, processed foods are much easier to store and consume in comparison with fresh foods. Though these properties do make eating much easier, the health disadvantages that come with processed foods greatly outweigh the benefits of ease of access. Now, this issue is not a new one. It has been around for years. So the question remains, why haven't we done anything about it? The main problem is the attitude of the consumer. They do not want to change their way of life. They are unknowingly addicted to these sorts of foods. The aim of these food companies was to add sugar, salt, and fat to their products to make them more, as they like to clarify, alluring. Not addictive, alluring. And they succeeded. In a February 2013 New York Times interview with Michael Moss, a journalist and author of Sugar, Fat, Salt, he says, for some people, the most highly sugared, high-fat foods are just as addictive as some narcotics. The second issue is of policy. Many people have tried to change policies to combat these food corporations, but failed miserably, just because of the sheer amount of money and power the food industry has, and how intent it is on keeping things the way they are. An article published by the Union of Concerned Scientists, written by an unknown author in January 2013, puts it nicely. These companies have built successful business models around the very aspects of our food system we most need to change, and they have deep pockets. The Monsanto company, for instance, spends millions of dollars a year lobbying for policy goals. Though it is important to eat healthy, each individual has the right to choose what he or she eats, and if he or she wants to change the policies that govern what he or she does. I believe there are two things we can do to slow or even reverse the effects of the profit-driven food industry. First, and most importantly, in our daily life we must buy foods that do not contain these kinds of processed ingredients. This may be slightly more expensive, but it is important to stay healthy and not support the part of the food industry producing these unhealthy foods. The second thing, though much harder to participate in or accomplish, is to help try to enact policies to help prevent food manufacturers from continuing their practice of putting profit ahead of quality. There are many other ways to be healthy, such as exercising the right amount and avoiding narcotics. Though these are beneficial, the main factor in health is diet, and without a healthy diet, other healthy factors are almost obsolete. In this speech, I have talked about why the food produced by profit-driven food companies is unhealthy and the problems it presents. Then I covered the reasons why these unhealthy foods are still being produced and not stopped. Finally, I concluded with the things we can do to stop these parts of the food industry from continuing to produce this type of food. We have to try to stop the corporation. We have to try to stop We have to try to stop food corporations from continuing to poison humanity, either through daily choices in the grocery store or helping to change policies in order to combat them. Thank you.